Now you could chop up raw onions, like green onions, the end part, you could chop them up very fine and you could put those in there and that would work as well. Okay, I'm going to toss in some parsley. Now I may put a little more parsley than I would the others. Now actually, this dill weed here is,
different than what we get.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to have it chopped up small. That's even better. Thank you. Okay, and we're going to just kind of mix that up just a little bit. Big part?
Want more dill?
No, I think that ought to be fine. That's fresh, so that might be a little more potent. Mix it a little bit more. Now, when you put in your lemon juice, does anybody know what lemon juice does when you mix it with nut butters or seed butters? What? It thickens it. That's right. So you may have to put in more water afterwards. We'll see what happens. Might be a little too much. That might be a little tart.
I like it.
My wife and I have a thing. I like just a hint of lemon. She likes it flooded with lemon. Okay. I'll taste it after a while, but you can see it makes a nice dressing, and it's nice and thick, has a wonderful fragrance to it.
I've had many people tell me that they don't miss ranch dressing when they have this one.
Yeah, it's really...
This is just
tahini
dressing.
And you can...
Actually, I called it Raised Delight.
It's a variety of experiments.
Yes, a question?
Do you ever taste your food as you're cooking it?
I don't anymore, but it's a very handicap to a gourmet cook. But I'm not one of these people that can put it in my mouth and spit it out. To me, that wouldn't even be tasting it. So I just don't. I wait and I taste it at a meal, and if I feel like it needs to be doctored up, I do it at that moment.
I can't say that I haven't, because there's sometimes, if I know I'm having company, I want to make sure it's right. I'll taste it and then spit it out and then rinse my mouth out. Because I want to make sure it's correct for them. Okay. I think that just about does it, doesn't it? Now, what is this here?
Okay, now for those of, yes.
Is this one you're doing in the folder?
Yes.
Have you all in the book then?
Yes. These here are those of you who asked for copies, and some of you I cannot remember. So, and she has put a little, like 10 pence or 60 pence or something, because there is a cost to Gazeley here, and you can see that I got a lot of paper involved, so they will be charging for these papers. But some of you that have a health problem, and I told you that I have something on it in paper, I will have that for you. There's only a couple that I don't have, and that was on ladies' special problems. I don't have that one with me. If you give me your name and address, I'll be glad to mail it to you. All right, at this time, my husband's going to do a little stretching exercise with you.
Now, today, after we do a little stretching, apparently we're going to have some music. Is that correct?
Yes.
And there's going to be somebody that's going to sing for us and kind of give you a break from all the talking and get a little music going. But first of all, I know you've been sitting for a while, but I'd like you all to stand up. That's it. And we'll go through this series of exercises again. There's plenty of more exercises that we can do, but we're so close. I'm just going to give you the ones that we can do in close, okay? All right. Okay, first of all, let's stretch the torso. Get on the tiptoes and reach up as high as you can, like you're picking fruit. You want to get that apple that's at the top of the tree. That's it. Hey, boy, a lot of you folks are tall. Okay, and down. Okay, and now, important about the back. You want to keep the back straight. Now, have you been trying that? Okay, put your arms straight out. Raise your arm up and back. And now your back is nice and straight. Okay, let's try it again. Out in the front, up and back and down. And at the same time you're straightening out the back, you're loosening up the joints in your shoulder. Okay, now, dynamic tension. Hands behind the head. Okay, begin to press to the count of 7. Begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that should help relieve the tension in the neck. Okay, now put the hands on the forehead. Okay, and remember, start to press at the count of beginning. Okay, begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Now, put our hands in the front. Okay, and begin now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Boy, doesn't that feel good? After sitting there not doing anything. Okay, your left hand down, pushed up and your right hand down. Okay, muscle against muscle. Okay, begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, right hand up, left hand down. Okay, begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now hands on the hip. Put the hands on the hip. That's it. Now I want you to look to your left and look at your right heel. Remember, keep your legs straight and look as much as you can to your left heel. See if you can see your right heel rather. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, front. Look to your right and look at your left heel at the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And front. Okay, now stick your right foot out as best you can, or take it off the floor, and I want you to turn it to your right. Twist it to your right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and down. Now left foot up. To the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. To the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now if you hear a little cracking, don't let that bother you. Okay, now sit down. What is it they call, the Orientals call it kimchi. Yeah.
Is there a certain length of time that you should put your body under tension like that? And in the old days, they used to get you to lift weights and other things. Is this more scientific?
Well, the thing is, even if you're lifting weights, a person should do something of this sort before they start doing heavy walking or jogging or even weightlifting. They should loosen up the muscles, stretch the muscles a little bit, and get the blood circulating in there real well before they even do that. But this is something where people, when they're at home, you take busy people like we were mentioning that are in the office, or housewives that don't have time to stop, or a husband that's in the car and going to the office. Even while they're sitting in the car, even while they're sitting in their office, even while they're at home cooking in the kitchen, you can be standing on one foot, stirring. I mean, these are these simple exercises that you can do each and every day.
Good. We're going to sing about the 8 doctors. Good health is our treasure, and what's more, it's free. If thoughtful and guarded, how healthy we'll be. I'm healthy, I'm happy, and if you ask why, I've been to 8 doctors will be my reply. The first doctor playfully tousled my hair. He said, leave the city and get some fresh air. The second was warm as he beamed down on me. He said, why buy makeup when sunshine is free? I'm healthy, I'm happy, and if you ask why, I've been to 8 doctors will be my reply. The third careful doctor prescribed temperance, and since then when tempted I said get thee hence. The fourth doctor cancelled our evening date. He said get some sleep now, you've stayed up too late. I'm healthy, I'm happy, and if you ask why, I've been to 8 doctors will be my reply. The fifth doctor pointed to the bountiful field and planned me a menu from all it would yield. The sixth doctor said, enough of just talk. Come now, put your shoes on, let's go for a walk. I'm healthy, I'm happy, and if you ask why, I've been to 8 doctors will be my reply. The seventh good doctor just gushed with advice. He said, drink it, bathe in it, water is nice. The 8th kind doctor just smiled with a nod. He said, all things work together if you just trust in God. I'm healthy, I'm happy, and if you ask why, I've been to 8 doctors will be my reply. I'm healthy, I'm happy, and if you ask why, I've been to 8 doctors will be my reply. Amen.
Thank you so much. I've received a good blessing out of that, that's for sure. Well, today, I wonder if there's someone that I could have them to put these overheads on for me. Can you put those on for me? Now, before we get started today, I want to review, I want to review a little bit about the digestion that we had yesterday. And go over this just a slight bit. Digestion is vitally important because of why? Because a big share of disease, sickness, and death, that's where it usually starts, is right in the digestive system. A malfunctioned digestive system can cause us a lot of problems. So let's just go through some of the things that we need to investigate as far as our digestive system. Number one, we need to chew thoroughly. Chew thoroughly and to mix the saliva with the food so it will be pre-digested before it hits the stomach. Number two, eat slowly. Number three, don't drink fluids with the meals. Now, why did we mention that yesterday? Dilutes the hydrochloric acid, dilutes the digestive juices, doesn't it? And so it takes much longer for the food to digest. Okay, no real hot or cold food. Nothing between meals. And why did we say not to eat between meals? because it delays the digestion, and then it's got to go back and start all over, and therefore the food stays in the stomach a lot longer than it would ordinarily. Okay, eat at regular times. Now, whether we like it or not, friends, we like schedules. Our body likes the schedule. And if we eat at the same time or within the same time span every day, the digestive juices start flowing before we start eating. And so it prepares the stomach for the food that's going to be coming in. Plus the fact that we start having a better regularity in our elimination. And that's another reason why we want to think about eating at the same time. Eat moderately. Remember, temperance is not only in abstinence of harmful foods, but it's moderation even in the good foods. Take a walk after each meal. Now, not everybody can do that. Now, we're not saying exercise after each meal. We're talking about a stroll. Now, if you exercise after eating, what happens? Because you see, the blood has rushed to the stomach to help digest the food, and if you start exercising, what's the blood going to do? It's going to go to the limbs where you're doing the stress and strain, isn't it? So it's going to delay the digestion. So don't walk fast, or don't jog, but maybe just stroll. Sometimes that helps to aid the digestion. Let's see, eat fruits and vegetables separate. Now, we mentioned that, and at the end of this lecture today, we're going to point out, I have an overhead that's going to point out to you some of the differences, yes.
What we got to ask about the eating at regular times. I know that in an ideal situation that's right. But if you think about Christ's ministry, and you think about the way that he ate, and I just kind of related it to us doing the work now. If you're out there in the mission field, really there are times when you know that you can't eat at the best time. And I know that the Lord probably knows that too. And it's just that I wanted to kind of add a little balance to it because, sometimes it's not easy to eat at exactly the right time.
Well, let's look at it this way. If we get too far off, maybe the best thing is not to eat.
Right.
Yes, go ahead.
One of the reasons that God's people are to be living the health message closely when they're able is so that when they are ministering to others, that they will be able to stay up late and that they will be able to miss a meal or something like that. Because when you are ministering to people, there are times that you get into that situation, and if you're in that situation, you couldn't tell someone, well, now you just wait right here until I go so I can stay on schedule. So there are times when you're in the ministry, but basically that's why God gave us the health message too, is so that we would be healthy people, that we could minister to others.
I agree with what you're saying, sister. Just to balance it back the other way, is my wife and I got to the situation where we couldn't live the health message because we were up till 11 o'clock each night giving Bible studies. So we did have to come to the point where with a few people we said, we're going to have to come earlier or later. We can't keep coming at that time. So you've got to just work individually.
Yeah, I think the best idea in this case is preparation and knowing where we're going and what we're going to do. And if we know we're going to be somewhere, take some fruit or something. Or I think even carrying fruits, nuts, and stuff like that with us, just in case those situations, like I was talking about the tahini with us. We have to look ahead. But if we do get in a situation, maybe sometimes it's best to miss the meal rather than go and eat at a real late hour at night or something of that sort. Now, we're not setting cement on not 3 meals a day. We're saying that 2 meals is the best. Now, when we have... If we feel that we haven't got enough nourishment, or if we feel that we've missed a meal, we may have fruit in the evening ourselves, or crackers. So, but the 2 meal a day is the best. Okay. Eat breakfast like a what? A king. Lunch like a prince. And supper like a pauper. That's right. Okay. Now, we need to eat when we're relaxed and happy. Now, the Bible talks about this, not to eat when there's a lot of things stirred up and anger and confusion and what have you. It's not good to eat in that element. In fact, we always like to, when we're having a meal, we don't like to answer the phone if possible, but what we do is we put on nice music, Christian music, or some nice classical music, and we try to relax and try to get rid of all the other problems that surround us so we can eat in a nice atmosphere. And it would do good with us. And you know, one of the problems we have today is a lot of fathers. Now, I say this because I've been in that boat. So tied up in business that I was never there to eat with my children. I ate breakfast with them maybe if they got up real early, and we ate breakfast sometime, but I regret some of the steps that I took, because business took precedence when I was a younger man. But I think that men today, we need to focus in on spending the meals with our children, with our family, with our wives. Spend that time where we can talk to one another, get to know each other. That's where we really get to know each other, isn't it? When we eat over food and talk and chat. And I'm sure many of us have failed in that area before. Eat when happy and relaxed. Eat high-fiber foods. This is why we're having a lot of problems today, because we're not eating enough high-fiber foods. We're eating too many processed foods, too many meats. Meats do not have the fibers in it. And we're eating too many of those things. Okay, don't eat irritating spices, which we've went over through some of those: cinnamon, nutmeg, beg your pardon? Cloves, those type of things, because the pepper, those type of things are irritating to the stomach and the stomach lining. Okay, don't eat fermented foods. Now, there's several things that fall under fermenting. Soy sauce, cheese, believe it or not, is fermented because it has to be aged. There's several things that are fermented. But you can replace those things. As you've seen yesterday, we had a different type of cheese that you could eat that isn't fermented. It's all healthy things. Sauerkraut, and there's also like soy sauce. You can get other products to replace soy sauce. Yeah.
Is tofu not fermented then?
I don't believe tofu is fermented that I know of. When you taste it, does it taste fermented?
Tempura, you're thinking of,
Tempura?
there is one that is, but not tofu.
Okay, unless you know something that we don't. If you do, we'd
No, it's
appreciate know what I mean. If she has some information that we could always use. Now, it talks about eating a variety of foods. Now, when it talks about eating a wide variety of foods, it doesn't mean all at one time. If you want to get the correct amount of nutrients, you have to eat a variety of foods throughout the week. And but at each meal, we never recommend over 4 varieties of foods, if possible, over 4 different varieties of foods. But throughout the week, you should eat an ample amount of beans, an ample legumes, an ample amount of grains, and greens, and fruits, and vegetables. A variety of those, yes.
What do you mean by a variety? Because sometimes when my wife's preparing, she said we've got a few too many varieties here, so she makes a tossed salad, and then that's just one, and we have a few more things. I mean, what do you mean by a variety?
Well, you could have a large variety just in one dish, in a casserole.
So you have a complicated dish, you
Yeah.
should just have breakfast.
Yeah, complicated dishes. But usually what we usually like to do, this is for us now, of course, we like to have one cooked dish with just salads and a salad and raw vegetables. And maybe a spread of some kind. And that's usually plenty for us, basically.
Yeah, that cooked dish might have 6 or 7 ingredients. You still count that?
Yes, you could. You could count that as the different ingredients. So you want to be careful of too many varieties. But there again, see, we need to listen to our body language. See, what I might be able to handle, maybe someone else can't. And so we don't want to set people in cement. We're just saying this is probably the better way to do it. Okay? Okay, would you put the next one on? Now, because of the way our diet is today, and we're going to speak a little bit on temperance, and we just mentioned what temperance is. Here we find in the statistics, they're finding that the age of coronary heart disease is getting lower and lower all the time. And we find that at 28, there's a 21.8% of a chance of a person 28 years old having coronary artery problems. But I want to say, friends, this is an old statistic. They're getting younger. And my wife, I believe you showed them this morning, the arteries and how they're clogged. Even when you're a child or a teenager, you're starting, those arteries, if they have bad habits, are starting to clog up. And so we really need to take a second look at it. The average person today, when they're 70 years old, have a 91% chance of having coronary heart attack or occlusions. And, but you see, that doesn't need to be, because the good news is it can be reversed. Okay, would you show me the second one? Now, the other thing with improper diet and fats, and we'd like to focus in on fats, my wife focused in on that today, is that cancer. It's a tremendous heart disease and cancer. Now, they took statistics, and people that are meat eaters or flesh eaters, they find that they use a lot more insurance, and at the doctors, a lot more. Now, I would like to say, if they really want an answer to the health insurance problem today, the Adventists have it. If what we need to do today is educate people to live a better lifestyle so they don't have to capitalize on the health insurance. But today, most people are not worried about what they eat or drink or smoke. They're worried about being covered with insurance. Now, you folks don't have that problem in this country. But in America, people are paying as high as $200 to $300 to $400 a month, friends, for insurance for themselves and their families. And the older you get, the higher it goes. But the real answer is educating people to have a better lifestyle. You can see right here, heart disease is leading out. But you know, cancer itself is catching up. Cancer, and believe it or not, TB is making another return. And they're having tremendous epidemics in the larger cities, especially with street people in the United States. But you can see at the end of the year, I mean, there's an annual cost of $60.9 billion for those that are flesh eaters rather than vegetarian type people. Okay, could you put the next one on, please? Now, my wife spoke to you about milk and eggs, about cancer, and this is one of the things that they had found. In 1975, they used to go and take supermarket samples and take them back to the laboratory and test them, just to see what was on the open market. And this is what they had found. They found that 7 out of 10 samples contained cancer viruses. Now, this is in 1975. We're talking about 20 years ago. And now they have many more diseases other than the cancer virus. They found that there was more than 30 diseases that were traced to milk. Now, I want to ask you, friends, is it time to get off of those products? You bet it is. I mean, we don't have to be hit upside the head with a club to know when it's time. And we were told the time will come at the very close of Earth's history. And I believe without a shadow of a doubt, we're in that time right now. A person ingests this type of food, even though it's a leukemia virus, you may not get leukemia. It may come out as some other type of cancer. So never think that because you don't get leukemia, you're not going to get cancer. It could come out as cancer in the weakest part of everybody, a genetic weakness in everybody's body. One person may have a weakness in their, maybe in the liver. Another person a weakness in their kidneys. Another genetic weakness somewhere else. And this could be where the cancer virus strikes, especially if you are filled up with toxins or you have a poor elimination. The highest cancer rate, believe it or not, is among farmers that have milk-producing stock or eggs and poultry farms. And why? And it's naturally because they eat their products. Okay, would you shift over to the next one, please? I'm just going to show you, this is a headline. This is one headline out of hundreds. We have a multitude of headlines and newspaper clippings and scientific reports definitely linking fat to not only prostate cancer, but also to breast cancer. Okay, the reproduction organ type thing. Could you put the next one on, please? I didn't realize that was the next one, but that's good. You can see it's not just Adventists that are saying this. This is not just vegetarians that are saying this. Here are some of the highest men as far as influence in the medical profession today that are telling us the very same thing. And I'd like for us to glean over it. Diet is the number 2 killer of Americans, Dr. Michael McGinnis, Department of Health and Human Resources. That comes from the United States government, Department of Health and Human Resources. The dietary factors responsible for cancer are principally meats and fats intake. Dr. G.O.B. Gorey, Cancer Research of the National Cancer Institute. So you see, this is not just health educators from the Adventist Church or from other groups. This is men of renown that have studied medicine throughout the ages. In regions where their meat is scarce, cardiovascular disease is unknown. Times Magazine, 1984. Now, could you maybe push that up a little bit so everybody, thank you. A vegetarian diet can prevent 97% of the coronary occlusions. Now, this is the AMA, American Medical Association. And usually they frown on it when you start trying to bring in diet to cure people from these different types of diseases. But here they even admitted in themselves that you can prevent 97% coronary occlusions by having a vegetarian diet. Now, if you recall what Mrs. Heathman said the other day, Dr. Henson said that if we could obey one text, we could almost eliminate heart disease and cancer. Do you remember what text that was? Where? Right, Leviticus 3:17. Ye should eat. It's perpetual. Thank you. It's a perpetual statute with you and all your generations that you eat neither fat nor blood. Well, friends, I want to tell you this. We're all Adventists here today, so I'm sure, aren't we? You take in Deuteronomy, it says that those who are eating fat and blood will be cut off out of the camp. Remember the requirements? Cut off and out of the camp. I want to ask you today, where can you buy meat and flesh foods without blood and fat? Can you buy it without blood and fat? So you see, it isn't the meat, it's the blood and fat. Because see, that represents sin. So we need to take that in consideration. Okay, the main villain in diabetes is the enormous amounts of fat. Dr. Hans Steele, international NOAA's researcher and health educator, which I'm sure most of you folks are acquainted with. Now, some years they did a study. The scientists wanted to find out, or the government, they wanted to find out where can we find a group of vegetarians that we might be able to give a test on to find out the difference between those that don't eat flesh foods and those that do. And so they realized that the only people they could really go to were Adventists. And so they did a research on Adventists in the state of California. And this is what they came up with. They found that those that were total vegetarians had 14% less. Only 14% of the cancer and coronary heart disease. Lacto-ovals had only 39%. The biggest majority was meat eaters, which had 55%. Now, the interesting thing, there's statements out that say that those that are total vegetarians will live 8 to 9, 10 years longer. But let me tell you, it's longer than that. And now they're finding out it's 20 years to 25 years. If they treat themselves right and do the right exercise, yes.
It's interesting. I have a book which is produced by one of the authors. It's called The Relate Encyclopedia of Vegetarian Living, and all this is in it.
Is that right?
Available in this country in Smiths and Dillons.
Isn't that amazing?
It's a terrific book. And I was stunned. I was looking in the index just to see what was in there, and I saw Seventh-day Adventists. I thought, wow.
What's the name of it?
It's called The Relate Encyclopedia of Vegetarian Living.
Isn't that something?
What's the date on it? Are we able to get it?
Yeah, it's a very new book. I've only just bought it, 2 months back.
Well, then apparently this information is not just held to Adventists.
Yeah, it's really
Thank you so much for that comment. I appreciate it. And as far as the cancer rate, we found that in California, the total vegetarians had less than 9%. And you know why? Because if they're not putting it in, they're not going to get it. Because you see, cancer viruses come from animals. Like cholesterol comes from animals. That's the only place that you get it. Other cholesterols that we have in our body is only what our body makes. Our body will make a certain amount of cholesterol. But most cholesterols, it come from animal products, not from vegetable products. Okay, lacto-ovo vegetarians, 25% passed away from cancer. But there again, you see the animal products. If the animal has the disease, friends, it's only natural it's going to be in the byproducts. Now, they may say they pasteurize it, but let me tell you, they do not pasteurize it at a high enough temperature at a long enough time in order to kill those viruses. Okay, the meat eaters in that state passed away. 50% of them were meat eaters. Okay, could you put the next one up, please? No. Excuse me for just a moment. I don't know how I have the. Oh yes, the sugar. Please, the phagocytes first. Now, my wife was talking a little bit about the immune system, and now maybe I better. Let's put that on next. Excuse me just a minute. Actually, what I was trying to do is implement two different types of lectures in today, and then I had a little bit confused there, and it wasn't my wife's fault. Now, I won't use that for just a moment. I won't need that for just a moment, so I'm going to use the blackboard. Now, first of all, we want to find out what do some of these fats do, as well as giving us cancer and as well as causing us coronary heart problems. We're going to find out what fats and other food products do to our body. Now, our body, as you remember, is 75% what?
Water.
It's 70% water, but chemistry-wise, what is it? 75% alkaline. Remember I mentioned that the other day? 25% what? Acid. Okay. Now, when we eat over an abundance of acid, what happens is our body chemistry is out of balance, and we end up with maybe more toxemia because of having excess acid. And this is what happens. We're going to see, I think there's some overhead in there on acid and alkaline. I would like to use those. Just bear with me. I'm going to draw this diagram, if you don't mind here. Can you folks see that from back there? Very well. Okay, how many of you are familiar with the pH scale? You familiar? Okay, here's the pH scale. Now, anything below 7 is acid. Anything above 7 is alkaline. Anything above that is alkaline. And your blood basically is a 7.2 to 7.4 alkaline condition. Now, if you get too much alkaline or if you get too much acid, you're usually in trouble. And so the blood has to stay at a pretty much of a balance. And so what happens is the liver tries to keep that in balance as well. Now, if you get too much acid in your system and the liver starts getting too filled up with toxins, it says this: I'm too full, I got to get rid of some of this stuff, I can't keep pumping it back into the blood. So what it does, it moves it up to where? What are those called?
Tissue cells.
The cells. And so it starts building up toxins in the cells of the body in order to store it, because you're getting too much. When the cells get too much, the cells say, well, no, wait a minute, I have to get rid of this toxins. It's in my, what am I going to do with it? So it starts putting it into the, what? The tissue. And then, excuse me, is this my water? Thank you. And so when it gets into the tissues, then we start getting rashes. We start getting maybe boils or pimples or something of that sort, because this is trying to come out. And this is why we're supposed to what? Perspire, to get those things out of our system. But if a person is not perspiring by exercising or what have you, if they're not doing any of those things, then they're going to have a buildup of toxins in their system. And the liver can get overloaded. Now, let's put down there the different acids. Okay, here's a lot of the acid foods. Definitely alcohol. All grains are acid except millet. Now you need acid. So let's don't get the idea we're not supposed to have acid. We're supposed to have an acid balance in our system. Breads are acid. Buckwheat, candy, all cheeses, cherries, chicken, codfish, all fish, all dairy products, all meats, all poultry. Those are all acid. Coffee, excuse me, crackers, excuse me, eggs, macaroni, because that is a grain. Hominy is a grain. Tapioca, vinegar, and sugar also is an acid. Sugar is also an acid as well. We can see there's a variety of acid-type foods on there. Now, how can we reverse that process? Does anybody venture to say? How can we reverse that process? If we have an acid... Yes, sir. I told him. How? Somebody said something here just... Okay, you would naturally want to reverse it to eat more alkaline, wouldn't you, to reverse the process? So what kind of alkaline foods do we have? Let's look at the alkaline. Okay, we find there's quite a variety of alkaline. And as you look on there, you can see there's legumes up there, certain nuts. Now, some nuts are acid, which is walnuts are acid. But you see, almonds are not acid, and actually Brazil nuts are not, they're alkaline. You have quite a variety. Carob, instead of the chocolate, that would be a good one. Now, there's ways that you can expedite eliminating the acid condition in your system to purify the blood. And one of those ways are with red clover tea. Yellow dock, you have it all around here. We see all kinds of yellow dock and clover and plantain that you can make teas out of that will also help that. There's dandelion, that also helps. But you can see you have quite a variety of different foods in the alkaline department there. Okay, now what I'm going to ask you, or show you here, if you will, just bear with me for just a minute. What are some of the other things that fats, now remember fats are alkaline, drugs are alkaline, acid, I beg your pardon. Fats are acid, and so are drugs are acid as well. But here are some of the other things, that the reason why you can't digest protein and why fat has a detrimental effect on your system. Number one, the protein, when you're eating protein, if it is surrounded by fat, it makes it very hard for the digestive juices to be able to digest that particular protein element. Now, if you have a high-fat diet, this is what happens to your red blood cells. Now, red blood cells, they do what? Does anybody remember what they do? Carry oxygen. And if you do not have enough red blood cells, you don't have enough oxygen, means you don't have enough energy, doesn't it? Because the oxygen is what gives you the energy, the oxygen and the water. Water and oxygen. Oxygen is H2O. Okay, which has oxygen in it. Okay, this is what happens. You have, say you have, let's put 5 red blood cells, okay? You have 5 red blood cells, and you have a diet of fatty diet meal. Now, do you remember the overhead that my wife just showed you a while ago, this morning? Did you show them the one on the hours? You eat a fatty diet, and after you eat the fatty diet, your blood gets real thick with red blood cells. The reason is because that fat surrounds each blood cell like this. Do you know what it does when it surrounds the blood cell? Huh? That's right. It makes the blood cells clump together. Do you know why it makes them clump together? Because you have a negative charge in your body. And the negative charge keeps the red blood cells separated. And as soon as you eat the fat, and it surrounds the red blood cells, what does it do? Cuts off the negative charge. And they all stick together. And the blood becomes very sticky. And this is why that you have poor circulation when your blood is sticky, because you've cut off the negative charge, the blood is sticky, and the fluid motion is very slow. And that's why we try to get people to cut down. Now, the mono and the polyunsaturated fats don't do that. But the saturated fats, that's where your culprit is. Because they emulsify much better than the saturated fats. Okay, would you... Now, I'd like to put the other one up there first before I put those. Yeah, the calcium part there. I just wanted to put another overhead up on here for you to show you some of the good sources of calcium. Now, we're telling you to stay off of the milk, off the eggs, but we want to show you what you can replace it with. Now, number one replacer would be this, greens. Remember, where does the cow get its calcium? From the greens. And you see, the cow has no problem with calcium problems, do they? We need approximately 8% of calcium in our blood. If we don't have that, we're in trouble. But we don't need to take large amounts of calcium, and we don't need to drink large amounts of milk. When we do, we end up with physical problems. You drink too much milk, your body doesn't simulate all of it. Did you go through the protein process? But anyhow, we drink too much milk. This is what happens. Let me just show you quickly here. Now, that basically is a bone joint. And when you drink too much of the milk, your body does not simulate all the calcium. What does it do? It comes out as bone spurs in the joints. And when people drink a lot of milk, and like my wife always says, she'll go into a store, and if you would ask some of these older folks, how come you got 2 or 3 gallons of milk there? Well, I need my calcium. You know, that's a lot of calcium. And their body is not simulating like it used to. And so what happens, they drink it, and they may get some calcium, but what happens is they get bone spurs on the joints and osteoporosis. Why? Because their milk also is very high in protein. And when it hits the kidneys, what happens is it has to have a delicate balance of phosphorus and calcium in order to get rid of that protein. If you do not have enough of the phosphorus or the calcium, it leaches it out of the bone in order to process that protein in the kidneys. And so that's why we say, stay away from the milk. Get your greens in smaller amounts. You can get them in these particular products. You can get it. Collards is one of the highest. The only thing higher than that is a product called lamb's quarters. Anybody ever heard of lamb's quarters? We have a lot of it in the United States. You probably don't have it here. But collards, turnip greens, kale. We eat a lot of kale. You can chop that up and put it in that potato a la green that we were talking about. Broccoli, mustard greens, soybeans, pintos, garbanzos. They actually found that there's as much milk in one orange than there is in a cup of mother's breast milk. Now, that's quite a bit, isn't it? In one orange. So you can get it in oranges as well. Okay, figs. Now, I'll tell you, figs is a whole food. It has just about everything you need. I mean, you can eat just figs, and let me tell you, you'll get almost all the nutrients you need in figs. Dates, apricots, raisins, prunes. I'm going over this in case you folks in the back can't see this. Soy beverages, tofu with calcium salts. Blackstrap molasses, tahini. And tahini, yes. Almonds, sweet potatoes. We like to boil sweet potatoes, or we put them in the oven as well, either way. An orange, one medium orange, one slice of bread. Let's see, what else we have there? And you measure that up with the milk products, and you find you get just as much calcium in these, because these, you get all that calcium maybe in one in milk or the milk products, but you get the calcium from all these other articles, and you're going to eat more than one article there. And you'll find that your body will simulate the smaller amounts much better than putting all that in your body at the same time. Okay, now we can go to the next one.
How many milligrams of calcium in molasses, please?
In molasses, I can't tell you. I wish I knew, but I don't know right off. Huh?
It's not on the screen.
Oh, is it, okay. Want to put that on there? He wants to see how much in the milligram in the molasses. Okay, let's go to molasses here. Where was it?
137.
Yeah, 137 milligrams in molasses. Okay. Now, as we mentioned, sugar is also...
Before you go into that, I want to make one comment.
Sure, go ahead.
I want to talk to you about calcium for one moment. Many times when we become vegans, we don't replace calcium. We don't eat our greens. That's where you're going to get it from. Now, I am tucking greens in everything. I put it in my roast. I put it like potato all green, different things like that. And we eat greens every day. But I notice when I'm on the road and I go into your homes, you're not eating the greens. And when you have children that are growing, and those children are vegans, they are going to have health problems. They're going to have problems with their bones if you don't give them the greens. And if they don't like them, somehow you're going to have to get them to eat it, because it's not the same. You can't take it in a calcium pill. You have to get it out of your greens. And you're doing more harm by taking calcium out of the mouth, because and many times we find that we're busy people today, we're going off to work, we're taking a little lunch with us, and so we're looking at lettuce for our greens, and that's not the same. You must have your greens. If you don't, you're going to end up having health problems, and then instead of a health reformer, you're not a health reformer anymore. You're doing disrespect to the health message, because you make it look as if we're not getting, all the nutrients aren't there, and they are there. You cannot go for weeks and weeks and weeks on end without these greens that replace milk.
That's right. Okay, now, we spoke of sugar being, I just want to implement some of this in as far as the sugar. Now, we could be here all morning talking, or all afternoon talking about sugar, but I just want to touch on this just a little bit, and we're going to have lunch in just a moment. First of all, let's look at this here word phagocyte. Now, that is part of the immune system that helps to destroy the bacteria and viruses and to eliminate some of the waste in the bloodstream. You have stationary phagocytes, and you have free phagocytes that move throughout the bloodstream. Now, this process down here of phagocytosis is the process of the phagocyte cell destroying a certain amount of bacteria. Now, each phagocyte will destroy 14 bacteria. Now, when you eat sugar, though, it lessens that. And we're going to show you what it does. See, the other one should be in there, I think, right after that. Yes, please. Now, the average phagocyte will destroy 14 bacteria, as you can see up there on the top line. And that's when it's at full force and full strength. If you eat 6 teaspoons of sugar, it deletes the ability of that cell, that T cell, to destroy down to 25%. It reduces it 25% ineffective. If you eat 12 teaspoons of sugar, you find that it lessens it 60%. And 18 teaspoons of sugar, it lessens it 85%. And 24 teaspoons of sugar is 92%. Otherwise, that one particular cell is 92% less apt to be able to destroy bacteria. And what I would like to ask you, when does most people come down with their colds or flus or whatever? When? On a holiday, don't they? Christmas. And why? Because we all have these good, sweet things that we're going to test out. And so consequently, we have a lot of sugar content in us, and it lessens the ability for us our body to destroy bacteria. Yes?
Also, I found in my experience, usually around just after Christmas, beginning of the New Year, cancers always increase.
That's right. And what else? Heart attacks. You see, because fats and sugars, and they do just exactly what we were saying a while ago. And if they have a heart problem, or they are leaning into that, if they have that cancer virus, then it becomes manifested. It starts showing its ugly head. Okay, you can cancel that out. I think you can eliminate the cell one there. So, yeah, you can put that on there. Now, I just wanted to elaborate on this just a little bit. A lot of health educators and a lot of doctors or scientists, sometimes they all come to a different conclusion of what is fruits and what is vegetables. But the biblical definition and some of the agriculturists and nutritionists may come up with this particular type of answer. And this is what I wanted to share with you. They have the vegetables, which you see on the left side. I don't know if that can come in a little clearer than not. That might be a little clearer. You can see such things as potato, celery, spinach, mustard, lettuce, cauliflower, broccoli. Those things that fall into that vegetable category. The fruit category, it might fall into berries, the vine fruits, melons, bananas, fruit, pears, citrus, etc. They would fall into that category. And then they have what they call vegetable fruits that will mix with either one. Now, everybody has to make their own choice in this area. We've made our choice, but everybody has to make their own choice. We do all we can. We don't try to mix our fruits and our vegetables, but there are some that you can mix with salads. And that is peas, beans, squash, cucumbers, bell peppers, and tomatoes. I might add even olives would fall into that category. Now, some people will not eat tomatoes in a salad because they claim it's fruit and vegetables. But, those are decisions, and we must not make decisions for one another. But we mustn't look at our brother's plate or in that direction. Let them figure that out for themselves. Let them work out listen to their own personal body language. All we're here to do is share, and then let everybody else make their decisions on how they see that fit. Yeah.
Just wondering in what category rhubarb would fall.
Okay, rhubarb, I wouldn't even eat rhubarb because it has oxalic acid in it, and it's very bitter. Do you ever eat rhubarb by itself? Very bitter, isn't it? And what's that tell us? Sour. It can't be too good.
And the leaves are poisonous as well.
Yeah, the leaves are poisonous. And what happens is that oxalic acid will block any calcium in your system.
It also causes kidney stones and, kind of stones like that.
Yeah.
It's not really a good food, and it's not something you can't do without because,
Yeah.
yes.
Very high in acid. Yeah.
If you regard it as a problem because it's sour, what do you say about lemon?
Well, because God gave us in our mouth, when we put something bitter in our mouth that we can't hold there without putting sugar or something in it, He gave that to us so we'd spit it out, so we wouldn't eat something that's poisonous. And you know the leaves of rhubarb are poisonous. And so therefore, when you put it in your mouth and you want to spit it out, that's a pretty good sign. But what man does is come along and say, oh, well, like chocolate, I can't hold it in my mouth, it's too bitter, it'll make me sick, so I'll dump all this oil and sugar in here, and now I can put it in my mouth and I don't notice it.
May I make a suggestion here? We've taken I put together classes on survival in the wilderness. And one of the things that we point out is this. When you go out in the wilderness and you're not sure about the foods that you see, but you need to have nourishment, and you see a berry or something of that sort, you take a bite, like 2 or 3 berries, you put them in your mouth and you chew them. If they're bitter, you spit them out. If they're not bitter, then you eat 1 and then swallow it. If you don't feel the effects, then you eat 2 or 3 and swallow it. And then if you don't feel any effects after 15, wait a while. And if you don't feel any effects after 15, 20, 30 minutes, then you know that you probably can eat that particular thing that's wild. But the key is this, to find out whether it's good or not, is whether it's bitter. Because when it's bitter, 9 times out of 10, it's potent or poison. So.
I don't know about Britain, but in Holland they say bitter in the mouth makes it's good for the heart. It's an expression, you know.
Oh, is that right?
So,
Well, the Bible text too, it says sweet in the mouth and sour to the stomach, but but that's talking about the Word of God too, you know. But yes.
You didn't answer. You didn't hear Richard's question. I don't think he asked about lemon, bitter lemon.
Yeah.
Lemon
I mean, you said you shouldn't eat rhubarb because it's bitter.
Oh, lemon, I see.
I said lemon is sour, but you say you should eat lemon. So where does the rule come in?
Okay, what does the Bible say? What is our food, our meat?
Fruit. Well, yeah.
Fruits.
But I mean,
See,
is
you
it because
could,
it's a vegetable and it's sour? I mean, where does, you know...
but excuse me, lemon you could hold in your mouth and you could eat it with no ill effects. Try and take raw rhubarb and eat a whole thing of it and see what the ill effects would be.
I think the difference here is that there are 4 types of taste buds. There's sweet, salt, sour, and bitter. And you're talking sour, whereas you're talking bitter. And those are 2 different tastes.
Yes.
Oh, well, the fruit is sour and the other is bitter. Yes, yes. Yes, yeah, right.
There's also the question of lemon juice. We use it a lot in salad dressing now. Isn't that not mixing fruit and vegetable elements?
Using lemon juice in the salad dressing.
Well, now, we know this. Lemon juice will aid. Now, you take people when they get up at a certain age, their body does not produce hydrochloric acid. I mean, it does produce it, but not as much as it did when they're younger. And you'll find they always recommend to aid the hydrochloric acid, to aid the digestion, to take just a little bit of lemon juice before the meal, about 20 to 30 minutes. And so it's the worst, less of 2 evils.
Oh, I see.
Yes, go ahead.
And we can strain it in that and swallow a camel. You know, by saying, well, isn't lemon a fruit and what have you. We need to see what goes for us. You know, I think about someone one time said to me, they looked at someone's plate and they said, that person had potatoes and applesauce on his plate at the same meal. And they said, could you believe that somebody would eat that combination? I looked at him and I said, look, praise the Lord he didn't have a slab of pork there too, because that's the way I used to eat it. So, you know, I mean, praise the Lord if the man has come that far. We must not look at somebody's plate and we must not strain it in that and say, well, now this can't go with this. God didn't intend for us to eat that way. You ruin your endorphins. You're not going to have any endorphins if you sit down to someone's table and start reading the labels on their cereal, or start reading, you know, you ruin your endorphins anyone that couldn't eat lemons at their vegetable meal, you know, with a little lemon pie. Even that's in the spirit of prophecy, isn't it? After, for a Sabbath dinner. And so we must not strain into that and swallow a camel. The whole idea is, brothers and sisters, to get off refined foods. Get off the high fat, the high protein, and be balanced. Be the most balanced people on the face of this earth.
And it certainly is better than using the vinegar. And it really replaces vinegar very nicely. And after you put it into your salad dressings and what have you, it ceases to be bitter. Now, the amount that I use in tahini, you'll never hardly tell it. Maybe just a hint of lemon. So it does have its good effects. Yes, I see a hand there.
I have a question about bitter salads, leaves, lettuce, like dandelion leaves, or the others as well. I've heard that they would be good for the liver, for bitterness. And bitter olives, for example. Some olives, they are so bitter. What
I
about
can't
them?
eat them when they're like that.
That makes two of us. Well, if it's bitter, I'd say steer clear from it as much as you can. Steer clear from it as much. And everybody has to make a choice because we'll all come up against different situations. And the Lord has to lead us in our own mind when we. But you see, today is the day to start making choices. We can't start making them at the very end. We have to start making our choices today. I think I seen a hand.
If you're eating from the wood, I was eating wine from the wilderness of wood. The leaves are quite intense in taste. Almost bitter. It's, the taste is so intense.
In what?
In wild vegetables. Wild.
Oh, yes, some of them might be, yes. But let me tell you, if we're fleeing in the wilderness, I'll tell you one thing, we won't have to chase a rabbit down. Yes.
Which is the best one? It's the green or black?
Which is the best one that's olives? We like the ripe olives. We use the ripe olives that are processed without vinegar.
We call them green, but they're really sort of between
Brownish
brown
green.
and green, and they're called tree-ripened olives. They are the very best, and they're cured in water rather than an olive or in a vinegar or something like that. Ray, there's been a hand way in the back.
Okay, there's one in the back here.
I was just going to mention, I don't know if we've drifted from it, that for me, when you're talking about those foods in the middle section, that there's some things that you had on your list there, which I don't mind at all, but I know that if I eat that with fruits or vegetables, it gives me indigestion, and I can taste it in my mouth for many hours afterwards. That's how I know which ones to avoid.
Yes, that's what I say. And Spirit of Prophecy tells us to listen to our body language and see what bothers. That's what we're trying to say is let everybody make their own choice and listen to their body language, and the Lord will lead. I believe that the Holy Spirit will lead each man. Yes, Andrew.
When we're actually talking about taste, with the whole food diet and with growing our own vegetables and fruits, you'll find that the taste will be more intense. And we'll actually find a whole new feel of taste which we didn't have before. So I would like to stress that when you have the opportunity to grow your own, it's certainly preferable to eating the stuff we get from the supermarket.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Much different in taste. And we're not advocating eating fruits and vegetables, friends. We're telling you not to eat them. But we're just saying there is a difference. There's a vegetable fruit. But if it bothers you, don't eat it. You know, don't put that together.
Also in America, and I don't know how it is here, but you may want to look into it. We have a lot of truck drivers and a lot of their wives who come to our classes. And the ones that are driving produce trucks, they're saying that they are told that every 50 miles they have to stop and spray their produce. So it is a time that we need to be growing our own. But remember, our liver can handle a few toxins. It just can't handle it coming from everywhere.
That's what we're trying to do is show you how you can eliminate a lot of the toxins from your system, because the liver is a neutralizer. It is a manufacturing, it's a big storage plant for minerals and nutrients and what have you. And so we're just trying to share some of the ways of eliminating that from your system.
Instead of onion and lettuce and cucumber, no, that's not supposed to be good.
There's what in cucumber and lettuce?
And laudanum. Laudanum, it's a built-in chemical or something in the lettuce and cucumber.
We've never had that.
No, I've never heard that, but I have heard that you can lose, actually it takes more calories to digest lettuce than it does, than the lettuce has. I've heard that.
But lettuce, by the way, lettuce, I was so shocked to find this at the Second International Congress on Vegetarianism. It also has a cancer protection in it. And so I used to think of it as non-essential or something that didn't have much food value and didn't worry about using it too much, but now I'm quite happy to use it. And I think some of the variety of lettuce, all of your greens, the darker they are, the better they are. The darker
Right.
green they are, the better they are for you.
Right. Okay. Oh, Anton.
Question and recommendation about raw vegetable juices. Like you get lettuce, liquidizing with onion and all that, and it comes out very nice and it's very tasty as well.
Yes, we should be eating a lot more raw foods because you see, a lot of times people contract cancer because they're not eating enough raw foods. Why? Because they're not getting enough enzymes. And enzymes are very important for the aiding and of digestion. And that's why we recommend, that's why we at home in our everyday living, we like one cooked food and raw foods with a dressing of some sort to go along with it.
And if you do
Not a raw.
cook your vegetables, steam them, don't put them down in a lot of water, the less water you use. But use a steamer, and don't steam them until they're mush. Keep them to where they have a little
Crunch to them.
and then the enzyme will be there.
Okay.
There's
Okay.
two.
Oh, yes.
I enjoy having spinach when they're quite young in the salad, but I was actually told that it's not very good to have it that way. It's best to have it cooked.
Well, actually, if you see, spinach has oxalic acid in it too that blocks the calcium. Spinach, chard, and what we just talked about, rhubarb. It has oxalic acid, especially rhubarb has the most. Spinach is good for you, loaded with iron. But I wouldn't be eating it all the time. If you eat it in a salad, you'll eat less. You follow me? When you eat it cooked, you're going to eat a lot more because it cooks way down. And so, yeah, spinach is good for you. I just wouldn't make it a diet of every day because it does block the calcium.
Or don't be looking at it for your calcium.
Yes, don't look at it for the calcium.
It's good in iron though, the spinach.
Yes.
Yeah, it has a lot of
Very
iron.
good. It has a lot of good nutrients, and it's a very good thing to eat raw or cooked.
Yes.
But, Dr. Crane said he thinks that eating it raw might even be better because you can't eat enough of it to interfere with the calcium. Like when you eat it steamed, you can, how it goes right down into just a little bit.
It changes the chemistry
And
to
so
it.
that
Yes, back there.
I learned from my mother that spinach would be good for me as a child. And now I have read an article about it that spinach isn't good for children. What did you know about that?
I've not heard that before.
Neither.
I don't know where you got your source of information. I've never seen it, and it could be correct. It's just that knowing the nutrients in it and the iron and all, I would think that it would be good for children. But I would be glad to take a look at that and see where you got that.
I think probably because children need more calcium, and maybe this is what they realize, that it does block the calcium, but I don't think occasionally it's going to hurt a child because they need the iron as well as the calcium.
What is obvious is that most children don't like it. You have to force them somehow.
Well, children should have some choices. We're told our children should have some choices. And listen, if your child is going to get sick, please don't make them eat, because we all have likes and dislikes. But if your child is just trying to hold out to where they can eat all things, just a few select foods that they like, then it's time to do something about it. But if your child, isn't there some consistencies of food that you just sort of say, that's not for me? Well, that's okay. There's not something in spinach that they're going to be missing if you don't give it to them somewhere else.
They will grow into that as they get older when they start realizing their need.
Have some preference.
So you need some greens, don't you? Because
You
most
need
children,
greens.
That's why if you put them in soups or in the potato a la green or in maybe in your spaghetti dishes or something, the children will get them. You can put them in other ways. Okay, you want to put that other, one more? Where's that? Okay, Roy.
I wonder if you could say quickly anything about the value of sprouted seeds and things like that.
I would like to say one thing. Many of you folks probably buy barley green, or have you ever heard of barley green or wheatgrass, that type of thing, which it has concentrated calcium and concentrated chlorophyll in it. If you don't, then maybe you're not interested in what I have to say, but a lot of people pay a lot of money for barley green. Is that correct? Did any of you folks ever use it or heard of it? Okay. That's what I was going to say. Get you a flat like this, put your barley in there in some nice soil, mash it down, and put a little bit of soil over it, and just keep it in the sun and water it a little bit. Grow your own barley green. When it gets up about so high, just take a scissors and cut it off and make a green drink with it. And it just keeps growing. It may come to a point where it'll stop growing as much, but then, or you can dry it and maybe put it in a blender and blend it up into a powder and put it in a jar. But you can grow your own. You don't have to pay tons of money for barley green. Just grow it, and when it gets up so high, that's when it has all the concentrated nutrients in it. When it's young and tender and is about so high, you can cut it off with a scissor and it'll keep growing. So it's just a suggestion. Even in the wintertime, it'll grow inside, because in the winter times when you need some of those greens because you can't get them all the time on the outside.
Let me give you another excellent source of greens. It's a young radish top. It makes a delicious salad. It's very good steamed with a little salt and vinegar on it. I mean, lemon juice. German, I used to do vinegar. Anyway, with lemon juice on it, it's very high in calcium, and it grows almost year-round. You can have it growing around your house. It's nice to tuck it in flower gardens. Don't worry about the radish, but get the greens. And my husband and I, we started out with a young radish top, like they suggested, but now we like them whether they're young or old, because it's just a very, very delicious, mild flavor, very tasty.
Now, I've heard pros and cons about sprouting. Actually, when you sprout, the nutrients are concentrated in the seed. That's what makes it come up. But I have heard that some people say that it isn't good for you. But now, I've never seen any documentation to that effect at all. And if there is some, I'd be glad to look over it or take a second look at it. But as far as I'm concerned, until there is something of that sort, sprouts are concentrated, with the beans. And you can sprout beans and peas and all those things and put them right in your salad. You can do that. Or you can take and sprout the beans and then cook them. Some people do that and to have less gas as well. They sprout the beans, and then after they start sprouting, they put them in a pot and cook them.
Just
you
when
can
they
do it that
break
way.
a little bit, just as it
Yeah.
breaks a little bit, the sprout, it makes it a much more nutritious bean.
Yes, because then it brings all the nutrients to the surface there. So, for what that's worth, Roy. Yes, you want to put that last one? I don't think we have any more. I just want to briefly go over this. Basically, we have the benefits of vegetarianism, a diet. Lower serum cholesterol. Absolutely, a total vegetarian does not have the cholesterol problem. Now, myself, it used to run up close to 200. Today, it runs around 120 to 130. So I know that it does bring it down when you make those changes. Now, 1/3 risk of developing heart disease. I'd like to say this, it's more than that. A good 50% at least, if you're following the whole plan. Because diet is not the total part of it. Diet and exercise, they have to go together. When God said he put man in the garden in Genesis, but he put him in there for what reason? To dress it and keep it to eat the food, didn't he? He was going to eat the food, but he had to dress it. And after sin came in, he had to work up a field, work up sweat to get out the toxins. So he did that for a reason. Exercise and food. They have less high blood pressure because they have not the fats that are clogging up the system. Less obesity. There's one thing about this program, friends. It comes from God. And you remember when Jesus went from city to city, and he healed the sick and the lame and what have you. How many diseases did he heal? All, wasn't it? And it's a strange, whether we believe it or not, it's strange. It's a mystery maybe. But this particular diet, this particular program, it affects every disease to some effect. Every disease. I've seen it happen over a period of years. Lower calories, higher fiber, and this is why they're healthier, why they have less problems, because of the higher fiber and lower calories. You can eat and eat, but when you eat a vegetarian meal, you don't have as much problem, as a rule, with the weight problem. Okay, lower incidence of cancer, and I would say almost none. As you've seen down there a while ago when they took that survey, total vegetarians had 9%, where the average person had 50 and more percent. Less osteoporosis, because we need less calcium. We don't need all the calcium that people are eating today, drinking, because they're getting calcium from the food and drinking getting the calcium from the milk. And in turn, it is high protein, which is leaching more calcium out of the bone. And therefore, vegetarians have less osteoporosis, fewer bowel problems, because they have less bowel obstructions and built up of mucus, or they don't have the problems of digesting the meat. Meat is very hard to digest, less expensive. So we can see some of the benefits of being a vegetarian. Well, I think that we probably had an answer and question period before we even got to that last overhead. And I'm not quite sure. They're probably just about ready. But we can just break up, and maybe you can just kind of stir around a little bit. But before we do, why don't we just have grace, okay? Okay, let's just have grace for just a moment and be prepared to eat our meal. In fact, could you let the folks in there know that we're going to have grace to... Okay, shall we just bow our heads for a moment, please? Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you so much for allowing us to come together once again today. We know this is the final day, but Lord, you've blessed us with our fellowship with one another, and Lord, we just realize that you have a message in preparing a people to have better health, to have a happier life, not only in thy kingdom, but even right here on this earth. And so we just want to thank you and praise your name for the message that you have given us. We ask now that as we partake of the food that you've provided today, that you will bless it and sanctify it and give us nourishment and strength. And please direct our lives, Lord, in making right decisions that it might fall in harmony with your will. In Jesus' name we ask. Amen.